Hello, welcome to the Ukrainian Studies Organization at Indiana University. I'm Natalia Shpilova-Said. Joining me today is Ani Abramyan. And we welcome our speaker today, Dr. Olena Sivachenko, with the presentation on blended teaching and learning of Ukrainian as a foreign language. Dr. Olena Sivachenko is Research Associate at the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies and teaches Ukrainian at the Department of Modern Languages and Cultural Studies, University of Alberta. She also holds a PhD degree in Slavic Applied Linguistics from the University of Alberta. Olena Sivachenko specializes in interlanguage and cross-cultural pragmatics, integration of technology into foreign language classrooms, and student motivation. She is a co-author of the open education resource Podoroji UA, Ukrainian for Beginners. We will start with Dr. Sivachenko's lecture. Please submit your comments and questions via the Q&A option, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. Olena Sivachenko will address those during our Q&A session. Welcome, Olena.
Natalia, thank you so much for welcoming me. And good afternoon, everybody, and greetings from the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies at the University of Alberta. And it's an honor to be here today and to speak in your Ukrainian Studies Organization lecture series. Thank you for inviting me. And today, the focus of my lecture is going to be on the Ukrainian language education. And now I will share my screen, and I hope this is the presentation that I need. Yes, yes, thank you. And as Natalia mentioned, I am a co-author of the open education resource Podoroji.ua for beginner learners of Ukrainian, which incorporates a blended learning model. And today I will be talking about this model and also how this model contributed to the sustainability of the Ukrainian language program, Ukrainian language courses at the University of Alberta. And but before we move to the discussion, a discussion of the model, I would like to give you a few highlights of how the idea of this project emerged. It was prompted basically by the changes that the Ukrainian program at the University of Alberta has undergone over the last 20 years. And at the beginning of the 0 years, we had two sections of Ukrainian 100 level, which is a beginner level. We also had a course, Ukrainian 150, for those, this course is specifically designed for those students with credits from the Ukrainian bilingual programs at school here in Edmonton. And also we had healthy registration numbers in our 200, 300, and 400 level courses. However, in September 2013, there were only 12 students enrolled in our 100 level course. That was very alarming because just recently we had a new minimum enrollment requirement introduced, which was 12 students. So, and at that time, the course was on the verge of being canceled. Reduced offerings at the entry level meant fewer students in higher level courses. And that naturally could have led not only to course cancellations, but also to the eventual withdrawal of the courses from the university calendar. So therefore, the decline in enrollment prompted us to look into our students' language needs, first of all. And in 2013, Professor Olena Sivachenko, at the time my PhD supervisor, and I designed and conducted a study investigating what motivates and demotivates students to take courses in Ukrainian studies at our university. The study results provided us with highlights of who our students were and why some of them didn't want to enroll into our courses. So we learned three very important things which were kind of groundbreaking for our decision to develop a new resource. So from our students who were taking Ukrainian language courses, we learned two major things. First of all, that the existing textbooks often did not contribute to the development of skills necessary for communication in the Ukrainian language. And in students' view, the integration of more technologically enhanced tools and activities, especially those geared at self-study, into language learning might provide opportunities for additional communicative practice. Additionally, those students who were active in the local Ukrainian communities but never took any Ukrainian language courses provided a very interesting insight. They expressed the need for courses with less class time commitment. Please note that at that time, 100-level language courses at the Department of Modern Languages and Cultural Studies met 5 times per week, and that was often the reason why many students avoided taking beginner level courses, Ukrainian in particular. These findings, 3 major findings, prompted us to start developing a new technologically enhanced resource. And in 2014, our team, consisting of Professor Olena Sivachenko, myself, Oksana Perets, who worked with us at early stages of the project, and the web designer Sergei Kozakov, who joined us a few years later, we began working on our podorozhyua.com resource, which incorporates a blended learning model. And what is blended learning model? So under blended learning model, we understand the continued use of face-to-face teaching as a basic learning block of the learning experience, enriched and enhanced by the integration of the internet and other teaching and learning technologies into studies undertaken both in and out of the classroom. More specifically, the blended learning format is a combination of online and in-class instruction, where online and in-class sessions alternate. Regarding our resource, it consists of 26 units, 13 units for each semester. This course is for study in 2 semesters. And this table on the screen illustrates a prototypical 1-week unit, or podorozh. We call it a podorozh, or travel in English. And it consists, as you see, of 3 in-class and online sessions. The in-class sessions, called zustричи or meetings in English, and in the table they are labeled as 1.1, 1.3, and 1.5. They take place on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The 2 online sessions, which we call станции or stations in English, they are labeled as 1.2, 1.4. So students are asked to complete these assignments in these stations, in these online sessions, on Tuesdays and Thursdays before the in-class sessions. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that during the in-class sessions, during zustричи, during meetings, the focus is basically on the development of speaking and interactional skills in the collaborative environment. In the online sessions, the emphasis is on grammar and vocabulary introduction, review, and practice. At the end of each unit, students are asked to complete an online session called пересадка, or transfer in English. It is marked as 1.6 in this table. And this online transfer is designed to summarize, for students to summarize what they have learned during the week and to prepare, to get ready for the next topic, which is going to be which will start on Monday, they will start learning on Monday. Students are asked to complete transfer sessions, the assignments in transfer sessions over the weekend before the next in-class session. Overall, with the blended model, students complete approximately 3 hours of independent online study, in addition to 3 hours of in-class contact hours per week. The amount of time that students spend on the online assignments varies from student to student. The pedagogical practices incorporated into the model are rooted in the framework of activities proposed by Nidashkivska, which were adapted from Lorillard based on the needs of our project, to accommodate the needs of our project. These include instructional tasks, interactive tasks, communicative tasks, productive tasks, and adaptive tasks. Now we will take a look at each type of the tasks in more detail. So the instructional tasks. The function of instructional tasks is the presentation of new grammar and vocabulary with students apprehending the information. In online sessions, instructional tasks are realized through videos, and let's watch such a video. Colors. Red, white, red, blue, yellow, green, white, red, black, well, okay. During the in-class sessions, the new material is introduced through a 5-step technique, which, according to this technique, the new material is consistently presented in 5 stages. They are presentation, receptive recall or reception, choral and individual repetition, productive recall or production, and personalization. Now I would like to demonstrate how this technique works in class. And I have chosen a grammar topic, nouns in the instrumental case. So we begin with the presentation step, the first one, during which instructor introduces a new material in a context. The technique is performed in Ukrainian when I'm teaching this class, but now I will do it in English. So, presentation. The instructor starts with kind of a story as a context. For example, every Ukrainian has their favorite type of vareniki or pirogi, vareniki. I like vareniki with kapusta. Kapusta, vareniki with kapusta. My mom likes vareniki with potatoes. Sorry, with cabbage, I mean. Vareniki with potatoes. Potatoes with potatoes. My father likes vareniki with cheese. Cheese with cheese. My friend Orest likes vareniki with meat. Meat with meat. My friend Bogdana likes vareniki with mushrooms. Mushrooms with mushrooms. And vareniki with cherries. Cherries with cherries are my most favorite. So this is the presentation step. Then the next stage is the receptive recall. So during this step, instructor describes a type of vareniki and asks students to provide a number of pictures. For example, I say, vareniki с картоплей, or sorry, vareniki with potatoes. With which picture? And students respond, 2. Or for example, vareniki with cherries. Which picture? And students respond, 6. Vareniki with cheese. Which picture? And students respond, 3. The next stage is the choral and individual response. During this stage, instructor points at the picture and describes a type of vareniki. Students repeat in chorus and then individually. For example, 2. Vareniki with potatoes. And students repeat after me, vareniki with potatoes. Then I say, 5. Vareniki with mushrooms. And students say after me, vareniki with mushrooms. And then I can ask students to repeat after me individually. The next stage is the productive recall stage. During this stage, the instructional targets are removed. You see that the nouns in the instrumental case, they are removed from the pictures. And instructor points at a picture and asks students a question, and students respond. 3. What type of vareniki are these? And students respond, vareniki with cheese. 5. What type of vareniki are these? And students respond, vareniki with mushrooms. The next stage is the personalization stage. During this stage, students practice the newly introduced instructional targets in a personalized context. For example, students are asked to complete the sentences about the vareniki they like and dislike. And there are 2 patterns. I like vareniki with, and noun in the instrumental case should be written here. And I dislike vareniki with, and also the noun in the instrumental case should be supplied here. So students can work on this task either individually or collaboratively, and after that they share their results to the class. The next pedagogical practices are interactive tasks. They are initiated by the instructor, physically or virtually present, and then gradually transferred towards students' individual or collaborative participation, during which they investigate and explore using the language. The 5-step technique that I just demonstrated to you is a combination of instructional and interactive tasks. Well, and here is also an example of interactive task that is used in our online sessions. In this picture, you can see one Oksana. She is one of our resource characters, and she has made a list of countries that she would like to visit, because the objective of the class is the geographical names. The names of the countries in particular, and the task is for students to create their wish lists and post them on forums. So the task is the following: what countries would you like to visit? Following Oksana's example, create your own list and share it on forum. The next are adaptive tasks. In adaptive tasks, students follow a model, practice and experiment with their language skills, and here is an example of an in-class activity. Vareniki are a traditional Ukrainian dish. Every Ukrainian likes a particular type of vareniki. Work with your partner. What kind of vareniki does every member of the Sivachenko family like? Follow the pattern, and the pattern says, Ivan likes vareniki with strawberries. Basically, these people, as well as Oksana in the previous slide, They are the main characters of our resource, and from time to time they appear in our course, and all our material, vocabulary and grammar are constructed, organized around this family, their friends, and their friends. In this table, we see the pictures of people, and here we have the names of these people and the type of filling that they like their Varaniki with. So students' task is following the pattern to create the sentences using the nouns in the instrumental case. And now we move to communicative tasks. With the help of communicative tasks, students practice language and share results in pairs or groups, having discussions in the language. Again, this is the task from our online session, and it says that what is your favorite show? Why? Share your answers on forum. And also the students are asked to react to at least one posting of their classmates using their favorite surprise phrases. They are learning the topic of cinema, and they are also learning the various surprise phrases which are cultural information. So you may use your favorite surprise phrases from the next slide. And here is the next slide with Ukrainian surprise phrases, and students have to use some of them in order to react to the posts of their group mates, classmates. And this is the example of the communicative tasks that we use in our in-class sessions. So this is basically the signatures search activity. In this activity, the students have to walk around the class, talk to their classmates in order to find out who has tried the following types of vareniki. And this is the pattern of a conversation that they need to hold in order to fill in the blanks with the names of their classmates. After the activity, students are asked to share what they have learned about their classmates. And productive tasks. In productive tasks, students, following an example or a model, produce their own similar texts, written, oral, or visual, expressing and articulating themselves in the target language. And here is the example of a productive task in our in-class sessions. Again, the topic is vareniki, instrumental case. We continue talking about vareniki, our pierogies, and the task is as follows. You are opening a restaurant, Funny Varenik. Create a menu of the vareniki that you are going to offer your customers. You may use the menu from the previous exercise as an example, and of course, share your results. These pedagogical practices that I have just shown you, when incorporated into the blended model, aim at the development of learners' communicative competence, which is the primary objective of the communicative language teaching approach that has dominated foreign language classrooms for decades. Although within this approach, the traditional language classroom has seen a move towards more learner-centered practices, many instructors still perform the role of a deliverer of information in their classes. With the proposed blended model, the traditional instructional tasks such as presentation and practice of the new vocabulary and grammar are transferred mostly online, and students can work on them anytime and anywhere. And this offers them great flexibility in their learning experience. At the same time, the class time becomes more open to learner-centered activities that focus on the speaking and interactional skills in a collaborative environment. And this shift in instructional and learning practices leads to the transformation of the instructor's role from source of information from a deliverer of information to that of a moderator and facilitator. The proposed blended model promotes learner-centered activities, enabling the true implementation of communicative language teaching approach into language education. So far, the resource that we have developed and that incorporates the blended model has been piloted in various educational settings at 4 academic institutions. It has been piloted in language courses at the University of Alberta, University of Saskatchewan, and University of Toronto, Canada, as well as in a language course for foreigners in the Taras Shevchenko University in Ukraine, and in an intensive summer course at Arizona State University. Since the project is still work in progress, though we are currently finalizing it, so we annually collect students' feedback through an online survey. And the results of the survey have consistently revealed that the course and the model are positively perceived by the learners, particularly the model. Please consider example 1. So here are the example of, here are some quotes that we collected from our students. And example 1, I did not know about the model until I took the course, but I found it very handy. So student, this participant expresses their appreciation of the model. They perceive the model positively. They find it effective and helpful for their learning the language. The second example, I feel like my expectations were exceeded. In a short time period, I feel like I've got a good foundation for the Ukrainian language. Well, in this example indicates that students, the respondents' expectations were not only met, but in fact, they were exceeded. And among other positive things about the resource is that participants see it as a strong motivation booster as well. I became even more passionate for my heritage and even more motivated to continue learning the language. Other advantages of the course involve ability to accommodate various learning styles. It gives learners who like face-to-face classes a chance to excel, as well as those who would rather work online. Overall, the feedback from students that these examples demonstrate, and not only these examples demonstrate, has been consistently positive. And importantly, or interestingly, when COVID-19 hit, well, the transition to distance learning for the blended course was very smooth. For example, one of the students wrote the following. Please consider example 5. It was the least stressful of my courses during online learning and was the easiest to transition to. Well, all these examples, all these quotes point to the fact that students perceive the resource and the model in particular as effective and helpful in their language learning. And I would say that students' positive perception of the course was instantly reflected in our enrollment. I would like to remind you that in 2013, we had 12 students enrolled in our 100 level course. So now we are getting 25, 30 students in our 100 level course. And I think this growth is to some extent attributed to the change in student demographics. Previously, the majority of our students were of Ukrainian background, or there were students who had someone, I don't know, like husband or wife, girlfriend or boyfriend who of Ukrainian background, and they wanted to learn the language in order to communicate with their in-laws. So right now we are getting students. who are not of Ukrainian background. We see in our classes, we see students of African background, Chinese background, of Arabic background. And when I encounter them, when I approach them, and when I ask them what motivated them to take our 100 level course, there are two main reasons. The first reason is that they heard from someone, or someone recommended them, that this is a very modern, technologically enhanced course, a very cool course, and they wanted to try it. The other reason is that our course offers a lot of flexibility. So I want to remind you that in the Department of Modern Languages and Cultural Studies, 100 level courses, they met 5 times per week. And of course, this course sometimes was in time conflict with the mandatory courses that students had to take, and that's why they couldn't enroll in the courses. So therefore, when we transitioned to the blended learning model, and students in our course had to meet only 3 times per week, of course, it became very attractive to such students. So therefore, I can say that now we are getting students who are taking this course because they are attracted to our modern, technologically enhanced resource and the blended model, which offers them great flexibility, rather than because of a sense of belonging to the Ukrainian community. And in conclusion, I would like to say that by integrating the blended learning model into language learning, we strive to meet the needs of modern, technologically savvy students and make our language courses more appealing to them, thus building a strong core for our language offerings. Our proposed model, by transferring instructional tasks and training exercises to the online space, allows students to maximize practice of their speaking and interactional skills in a collaborative environment during in-class sessions. Such reconfiguration and distribution of learning activities contributes to the increase of student engagement in the learning process, which is paramount for any learning success. Also, through our material, students receive exposure to the target culture and learn how to successfully communicate with native speakers in various communicative contexts. Additionally, the proposed course model provides students with an opportunity to develop their computer skills and their learner autonomy. The proposed project has the potential to inform and impact current and future language programs, importantly, not only in Ukrainian studies. We anticipate that the results of the project will inform language educators about the potential that blended learning model has for language learning and teaching. We have always hoped to encourage instructors of other languages to test or implement the model into their language learning and teaching practices at our department. And I'm very delighted to say that the success of our project was noticed by the Department of Modern Languages and Cultural Studies. And in September 2019, just last year, the department officially announced the transition of all language courses to the blended model. We also see our project as a start of a long-term research. We envisage our future study to include the development of learner autonomy in the process of foreign language learning via a blended learning model. And in the end, I would like to stress the fact that this resource was designed and produced thanks to the efforts of many individuals and organizations. We are particularly grateful to a number of Ukrainian community organizations for their most generous and continuous support. They are the Ukrainian Canadian Foundation of Taras Shevchenko, the Alberta Society for the Advancement of Ukrainian Studies, the Alberta Ukrainian Commemorative Society, and the Alberta Foundation for Ukrainian Education Society. We also appreciate the financial and logistical support of the Ukrainian Language Education Center at the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies, at the University of Alberta. Their backing provided us with the needed stability for this project and its progression. We also thank the Department of Modern Languages and Cultural Studies at the University of Alberta for taking the risk and allowing us in 2015 to launch our pioneering and still in progress resources in the beginner's Ukrainian class. And special thanks go to the Center for Teaching and Learning at the university for assisting us with the initial stages of the design and development of the project and their financial support through 2 grants. And this is the final slide of my presentation, and I will stop sharing my screen right now, and I look forward to the questions if there are any.
Thank you so much, Olena. Yes, we can proceed to our Q&A session. Please leave your comments or your questions in our Q&A box, or if you would like to ask your question directly, you can let Ani know and she will open this option for you. So while we're waiting for some comments, well, I have this first question, which was actually prompted by the opening remarks, Olena, that you made. And you mentioned some factors that contributed to some lack of interest in learning Ukrainian. And among the demotivators, you mentioned the textbooks, that students were actually not happy with what the textbooks were offering. Is that the only strong demotivator, or maybe there were other reasons that contributed to this kind of lack of interest?
I would say that there were a few demotivators, but the demotivators that were most frequently mentioned by the students were the lack of technology involved in the courses. Students were complaining that the courses are old school, that they don't like that the instructors just use textbook and the board and sometimes YouTube videos. And they were actually offering giving some suggestions what technology they would like to use, why don't we use this or that, because our students are born with this technology, which we had to learn well while we were growing. So they were growing with the technology, and of course they are actively using the technology in their everyday life, and then they come to class and there is nothing there. And the other demotivator, yes, the textbook that that we were using. So they said that these textbooks do not prepare them for actual communication in the Ukrainian language, because as I mentioned, most of the students were of the Ukrainian background. They had relatives, they had friends in Ukraine. Many of them visit Ukraine on a regular basis, and when they start conversation with native speakers, they are not understood, they do not understand, and they cannot hold a conversation. So therefore, in order to address their needs, we looked we tried to incorporate the technology, and we also incorporated, based our materials incorporated 2 approaches into our resources: the communicative language teaching approach, the ultimate goal of which is the development of communicative competence, and task-based approach, which provides students with an opportunity to practice their language in the context that approximate the real life communication. And also, we surveyed several groups of students. There were 4 groups, and 2 groups that were of particular interest for our this project were the learners of the Ukrainian language, and those students who were active in the Ukrainian communities at the university and outside the university, but they actually never took any Ukrainian language courses. And we reached out to them, so asking why, and they said that they were willing to take the courses, but because of large time commitment, 5 times per week, 5 classes per week, that was in time conflict with the other courses that they had to take. That is why we decided to consider the blended learning model, which allowed, which permitted more flexibility for learning the language.
So in other words, student suggestions really helped you to somehow shape this model.
Basically, because of the student suggestions, basically student suggestions prompted us to think about using this model in our resource.
Mm-hmm. So our next question will be about the content that you use for this model. I was indeed entertained by that demonstration about Vareniki, and I would imagine that it's fun stuff to put there, and you can do so much with it. But let's say if we want to use a different topic like political structure or government structure, how will it work for this model?
Well, we haven't considered, we have developed the resource for beginner level, for beginner level only. So that's why our topics are, well, not very difficult. And our topics basically are organized around such topics, so like family, food, traveling, eating out, leisure activities. Well, basically, we do not include such topics as politics, but yes, it is something to consider, which type of exercises we can offer students in who are taking more advanced courses. Well, something to consider. We will think about it when we start developing the resources for our advanced students, if.
And I actually had a question that kind of is a follow-up to Natalia's question. Do you think that this blended model will actually be as successful and as useful for higher levels as it is for introductory level of teaching, or is the introductory maybe first, second year where it makes most sense, but then students need a different model once they get to a certain level?
Well, I think the model itself needs to be adapted, because the model is just a model, and it depends what kind of tasks you create and you incorporate into the model. So of course the tasks at the higher level are different from the tasks that I've demonstrated to you, but the model itself, it just offers the flexibility for the students, that students, because as I read a quote from one of the students, that the model works really well for different types of students who have different learning styles. So there are students who are very shy, who do not like to talk in class, who do not like to be brought onto the spotlight, and this model allows them, well, to work at their own pace, in their comfortable in the environment which is comfortable for them at home. But on the other hand, there are students who like talking, who like collaborating, socializing, and of course they feel very comfortable in class. So basically the model is about this, about the flexibility, because students don't need to come to class like every day and then do some training exercises, practice some models, some structures, just reading the sentences, filling in the blanks. They can do it at home, and the computer can check those exercises and give them the feedback. Well, while they come to class, and the class time is used in a very effective way, because they concentrate only on working on using these structures in their activities which are geared at developing their speaking and interactional skills. So time is saved, in class time is saved only for communication.
We have a question from Sophia Asher, and I will read it out to you. Thank you for the interesting and informative presentation. I was wondering, what language proficiency scale did you have in mind while developing the resource?
So this resource is for beginners, for beginner level Ukrainian. So students who come to our class, they know nothing of Ukrainian. So this is for beginners only.
You also mentioned that there was some significant increase in enrollments after 2013, if I'm not mistaken. But another factor after 2013 is the year of 2014, and there was some increase in enrollment in all courses which this way or another associated with Ukrainian history, or Ukrainian culture. Do you think that that could somehow also contribute to the increase, or it was entirely because of the proficiency of the model?
In 2014, we also had low enrollments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically, as far as I remember, so even in 2015, we had a little bit more enrollments, but not more than 20, like lower than 20, but more than 12. And this is because we already created our resource, our materials, and we promoted them at different events, Ukrainian events. So we did very hard work. We worked really hard in order to promote the resource, and the focus was on technological enhancement. So the focus was that this course is cool, is technologically enhanced, using lots of technology. Well, and since 2015, our enrollments are more or less stable. Well, for example, when I look at other language sections, there are fluctuations, like, for example, in Russian program. So in 2014, they also had very high enrollments, but then in 2015, the enrollment significantly dropped. Well, so and based on the feedback that we get from the students, we think that the main reason for such enrollments is the resource, so that it is really attractive and really appealing to students. But it's a very, very interesting fact that in September 2019, as I mentioned, all the languages in the Department of Modern Languages and Cultural Studies transitioned to the blended learning model. And now, and some of the languages also developed open educational resources like ours, and our enrollments a little bit dropped. Now we are getting like 22, 27 students, while in some years we used to get 30 students.
So one more question about the skills that the students are primarily interested when taking Ukrainian. Is it primarily speaking? Because you did mention that the majority of your students don't have any kind of background in Ukrainian, in the Ukrainian language. However, they may have some knowledge about Ukrainian culture or Ukrainian traditions because of their family ties, so to speak. But are they primarily interested in speaking because there are students who would like to learn how to read because of their grad studies priorities, or students who would like to learn how to write as well for many reasons? So are they primarily interested in speaking?
No. Not primarily interested only in speaking only. Our aim is to focus on the development on all 5 skills, communicative skills in reading, writing, listening, speaking, and interaction as well. So, but those tasks are like listening and reading, watching videos, writing. They have to complete those tasks during the online sessions. And of course, at the end of every week, students are given tasks for some creative writing, to write something creatively, and then they bring this to class next time, and the instructor checks. And of course, they do the reading tasks as well, when they have to read some text and to record themselves and then send to the instructor, as well as, of course, they read in class.
Sophia has another comment. Sophia Asher is another comment on her previous question. What language proficiency scale, ACTFL, Common European Framework, or ILR, were used to inform your decisions about language tasks?
In Canada, we are using the Common European Framework of Reference, and we were targeting A1 level at the end of our course, but in some instances, students develop their proficiency in A1.2 even levels, or A2. We are aiming. Initially, we were aiming for students to achieve A2 level, but since we have 30 students in class, it's a little bit difficult. So we are aiming A1, A1.2 in some skills.
And I know that you taught languages in 3 different countries: Ukraine, Canada, and the US. Would you say that this model, blended model, would be efficient and successful in Ukraine, for example?
In Ukraine?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and as I mentioned in my presentation, in my lecture today, so our resource has been piloted in 4 institutions, including the Taras Shevchenko University in Ukraine and Kiev. So this course is used, I'm not sure about now. I was not in contact with the instructor who was using our course previously. In September, I need to get in contact with her, to reach out to her. And they were using to teach Ukrainian foreigners, because in Ukrainian university, we do have foreign students. And usually they take the first year in order to learn the language, and then they proceed with their programs together with the native speakers, native speaking students. So,
yeah, I probably should have specified, for example, in Ukraine for studying English.
In Ukraine for studying English, well, it all depends upon the technological advancement of the universities. Well, because in class, when we come in class, we do need the screen, we do need the internet in order to open the resource and to demonstrate the resource to students. Students also very often, so students can print off the materials, particularly the in-class materials, but normally our students don't do that. They access the resource during their through their gadgets, so they do need the internet access. And I'm not sure about nowadays, but 10 years ago, Ukrainian universities did not offer free Wi-Fi to students. But anyway, so since this resource was used in Ukraine, it was quite successful, and if there is a will, there is a way, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Olena. It looks like we exhausted our questions for today. Again, I would like to thank you for this wonderful presentation, and I wish you good luck on further projects and further developments of this fantastic platform for learning Ukrainian. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and good luck with your series.